Let's go downstairs and bake some cookies, like Mother used to make. The suggestion hangs in the air, a seemingly innocent invitation, but there's something wrong, something deeply unsettling. The warmth that should accompany the memory feels tainted, a sickly sweet smell that claws its way into your nostrils, not with comfort, but with the violent persistence of an uninvited horror. One step, then two. The creaking stairs protest under your weight, each groan echoing the dread bubbling in your gut. Ooh, isn't this great? The false cheeriness in your voice is almost convincing, almost enough to drown out the whispering dread. You've never baked gingerbread cookies before, always too afraid they wouldn't turn out just right, not like Mother's. What was her secret ingredient? You search your memory, desperate to remember. Was it sugar and spice and everything nice? Or was it something else? Something darker, something that creeps at the edges of your mind, a shadow you can't quite shake. Your heart hammers against your ribcage as you fumble with the oven dial. 300 degrees should do it. But something catches your eye, a glint from inside the oven. You pause, hesitating before slowly pulling out the baking tray. Confusion knits your brows as you take in the sight before you. Gingerbread men. Perfectly formed, their little tuxedos sharply defined, their grinning mouths revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Their eyes, those wide green eyes, stare at you with an intensity that makes your skin crawl. In the center, one of them holds a small, folded note in its doughy hand. You snatch it, your fingers trembling as you unfold it. To my little boy, my oh my, how time flies. It seems like just yesterday that I was taken from you. But don't worry, my dear, I've left you a little gift. Enjoy these cookies, and remember, Mother always knew best. Love, Mother Ding. The oven timer jolts you back to the present, but something isn't right. The note, those words, they swirl in your mind, twisting and tangling until they're more than just ink on paper. They become a sinister mantra, echoing over and over, pulling you into a dark place you've tried so hard to forget. You're supposed to put the cookies back in, to finish what Mother started. But a cold sweat breaks out on your forehead. How hot should the oven be? You wonder. Hot, Mother's voice whispers from the shadows of your memory, very hot. You comply, sliding the tray back into the oven, but the unease festers in your chest. As the minutes tick by, something terrible happens. The smiles on the gingerbread men begin to falter, the frosting mouths curling downwards as if aware of the fate that awaits them. Their eyes, once so bright and unnervingly alive, dull into something hollow, something that knows fear. Minute by minute, the heat warps them, and soon the red frosting that formed their smiles melts away. They can't scream, no more than you could when your mother clutched her chest that night, gasping for breath, her eyes pleading as she slipped away. Then, movement, one gingerbread man stirs, lifting its tiny head. Its eyes, now lifeless and blank, bore into you, reflecting the horror of that night, the night Mother slipped away forever. It struggles to stand on its stubby legs, staggering as if under the weight of a terrible knowledge. It looks at its fellow gingerbread men, their bodies lying still, and you see it, the realization, the sorrow. It steps forward, teetering on the edge of the tray, and with a final glance at its fallen comrades, it plunges into the fiery depths below. Clunk. Mother? The word escapes your lips, barely more than a breath. The memory crashes into you, violent and unforgiving. Why was she lying on the ground? Why didn't she get up? One by one, the gingerbread men follow their leader, marching to their doom, their faces twisted in silent screams. The last one hesitates, looks at the pile of burnt, charred bodies at the bottom of the oven, and jumps. The sound echoes, each clunk a blow to your fragile psyche, until a small mountain of blackened dough takes on a shape, Mother's face, twisted in a smile that's no longer comforting, but mocking. You see her, the smile that once brought you peace, now a twisted reminder of everything you've lost. But you don't stop. Every year, you return to the kitchen, baking those cursed cookies, hoping, praying, that this time, they'll taste just like Mother used to make. But they never do. And each year, the memory grows darker, the smiles more hollow, and the regret unbearable. I can never remember what wakes me, but the cold prickle of dread pulls me from the warmth of my bed. The door to my room is always slightly ajar, just enough to let in a sliver of light. The darkness terrifies me, and the dim glow is the only thing that keeps the shadows at bay. My parents, worn down by years of my midnight screams, keep their door cracked too, always ready to rush to my side. But tonight, something feels different. The air is thick with tension, an invisible weight pressing down on me. I find myself drawn out of bed, my feet moving on their own. The hallway is silent, my steps muffled on the cold floor. I pass my parents' room, the familiar safety of their presence just beyond the door, but I don't stop. Something compels me to continue, to walk toward the room that used to be nothing more than a storage space, a catch-all for forgotten junk. Now, it's my father's office, but to me, it has always been something more. Something darker. I reach the doorway, hesitating on the threshold. The room is pitch black, the kind of darkness that seems to swallow the light, devouring it whole. My heart pounds in my chest as I stand there, staring into the abyss. And then, the darkness begins to move. At first, it's just a ripple, a slight distortion in the inky blackness. But soon, it swirls, like a vortex pulling me in. The shadows gather, coalescing into a shape, a figure that rises slowly from the depths of the dark. My breath catches in my throat as the thing takes form, emerging from the void like a nightmare come to life. It's huge, its bulk barely fitting in the room. The figure is impossibly dark, darker than the shadows that birthed it. It has one eye, gleaming with a malevolent light, and it stares at me with a hunger that freezes the blood in my veins. I can't scream. I can't move. I'm paralyzed, trapped in the gaze of this monstrous entity. The creature stoops as it steps closer, its massive frame too large for the low ceiling. It leans toward me, its breath rancid and cold against my skin. It's starving. I can see it in the way it licks its cracked lips, its single eye roving over me like I'm a meal it's been waiting years to consume. I have to run. The thought jolts me from my stupor, and I turn on my heel, fleeing down the hallway. I don't even think to run to my parents' room, as if some primal instinct tells me I'd only be trapped there. Instead, I head for the front door, my legs heavy, the air thick and resistant. It feels like I'm moving through molasses, every step a battle against the invisible force trying to pull me back. I reach the door and throw it open, though I'm sure a child my age shouldn't be able to reach the handle, much less unlock it. But none of that matters now. I'm outside, on the sidewalk, running as fast as my little legs can carry me. I need to get to my grandparents' house, just 2 doors down. But no matter how hard I try, I can't move fast enough. My feet are leaden, my steps slow and clumsy. The air around me thickens, pushing me back, and behind me, I can hear the creature's teeth gnashing, closer and closer. I make the mistake of looking back. He's right there. I don't remember many dreams from my childhood, but this one has never left me. The terror it inspired seeped into my bones, taking root deep within me. It wasn't just a nightmare, it was something more, something darker, something real. As I grew older, my fear of the dark morphed into a fear of black doorways. I couldn't walk by one, couldn't even look at one without feeling that same cold dread wash over me. The darkness behind those doorways was alive, watching, waiting. My parents learned to keep lights burning in every room after sunset. It was a small price to pay for my peace of mind, though I never truly felt safe. By the time I was 8, I knew that if I stood in the doorway of a dark room, the darkness could see me. It was aware of me, aware and hungry. The boys at school loved to quote Yoda, "When you look at the dark side, careful you must be. For the dark side looks back." They thought it was funny, a line from a movie. But I knew the truth. The darkness was alive. As I got older, my encounters with it became more intense. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd find myself standing before that cursed doorway, drawn there by an unseen force. The darkness would reach out, whispering to me, tempting me to step closer, to come into its embrace. But it was always a lie. The moment I gave in, the moment I let my guard down, it would tighten its grip, pulling me toward its waiting maw. I'd wake up screaming, my parents rushing to my side. They never understood. It was just a dream, they said, just a figment of my imagination. But I knew better. When I turned 17, I finally left that house. I swore I'd never return. I worked hard, earned a scholarship, and moved as far away as I could. For the first time in my life, I felt free. I felt alive, as if I had been released from a prison I hadn't even known I was in. But then, the phone call came. My parents were gone. My mother had started hearing the whispers, just like I had. My father found her first, but the darkness took him too. I should have known it would come for them. I should have known it wouldn't let me go so easily. Now, I'm back in that house, standing before the dark doorway once again. The air is thick with dread, the fire from the living room spreading fast, but it doesn't matter. The darkness knows I'm here, and it's hungry. I can feel it reaching for me, its whispers growing louder, more insistent. I've escaped it for too long, and now, it's time to pay the price. As the fire inches closer, the darkness pulls me in, its grip cold and final. And this time, there's no escape. A seasoned hiker decided to venture out alone, seeking solitude in the embrace of nature. The forest, with its towering trees and dense underbrush, was a familiar friend. The hike was long, the air crisp, and the trail wound on for miles. But as the sky began to darken, the path back to his car seemed to twist and warp, becoming something unrecognizable. Panic clawed at his chest as he realized he was lost. The forest, so inviting in daylight, now seemed to close in around him, each rustle of leaves and snap of a twig sending his heart racing. With nightfall swallowing the last traces of light, he knew he couldn't risk stumbling through the perilous terrain. Then, as if summoned by his desperation, a decrepit cabin emerged from the shadows. Its weathered wood and broken windows suggested it had been abandoned for years. But it was shelter, his only chance of surviving the night. He knocked, more out of habit than expectation, and when no one answered, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. In the center of the room was a single bed, surprisingly well kept amidst the decay. Exhaustion overtook him, and despite the unnerving array of portraits on the walls, strange, almost lifelike faces that seemed to follow his every move, he collapsed onto the bed, pulling the thin blanket over him. As he drifted off to sleep, the unsettling smiles of the painted faces haunted his dreams. Morning broke, and with it, a chilling revelation. The hiker sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, and looked around. His heart stopped. There were no paintings on the walls. What he had mistaken for portraits were, in fact, windows filled with the faces of people outside, staring in at him, their cold, lifeless eyes locked on him through the glass.